Welcome, my dear learner. Take a deep breath. Today, we are going to learn English through a beautiful and emotional story. The story's name is The Night We First Met. It's a love story, gentle, meaningful, and full of feelings you will connect with. As you listen, repeat after me. Feel the rhythm of the words and try to imagine every scene in your mind. That's how your English will grow naturally, through emotion and imagination. Let's begin. It was a quiet evening in a small seaside town. The air was soft, and the sound of the waves made everything feel calm. The sun had just disappeared behind the horizon, leaving the sky painted in gold and pink. On that very evening, something special was about to happen, something that would change two lives forever. Emma was sitting alone on a wooden bench near the beach. She had just finished her job at the little cafe she worked in. Her hands smelled faintly of coffee and vanilla, and her white apron was still around her waist. She often came here after work to watch the sea, to think and to dream. Sometimes she felt that her life was too quiet, too ordinary. But that night, everything would change. Repeat after me, everything would change. Say it again slowly, everything would change. Excellent. Now, let's continue. At the same time, across the street, a young man named Daniel was walking back from the small bookshop where he worked. He loved books, the smell of paper, the feel of stories, the power of words. He was quiet, kind, and thoughtful. Most people in town didn't really notice him, but he didn't mind. He had his books, his dreams, and his music. That night, Daniel decided to take a longer route home, walking by the sea. He didn't know why, maybe because the evening was beautiful. Maybe because sometimes life gently pushes us towards something we don't expect. When he reached the beach, he saw a girl sitting on a bench, looking out at the water. Her hair moved with the wind and she looked peaceful but a little sad. Daniel hesitated. Should he say hello? Or just keep walking? What would you do, my friend? Would you stop and say hello, or would you keep walking? Think about it for a moment. Daniel decided to stop. He smiled, a little nervous, and said softly, "Beautiful evening, isn't it?" Emma turned, surprised, and smiled back. "Yes, it is. I love this time of day." Her voice was gentle and warm, like the sea breeze. For a moment, they both just looked at the horizon, quiet but connected by something they couldn't name yet. Repeat this short conversation with me, sentence by sentence. Beautiful evening, isn't it? Yes, it is. I love this time of day. Excellent. Speaking aloud helps you build confidence and memory. Then Daniel asked, "Do you come here often?" Emma laughed lightly. "Almost every evening after work. It helps me think. What do you think about?" He asked. "About everything," she said softly. "About life, dreams, the future. Sometimes about nothing at all." That made Daniel smile. He understood that feeling. They talked a little more. About the sea, the weather, the small town they both called home. Every word made them feel closer, though they had just met. Repeat after me. Every word made them feel closer. Good. Let's move on. The sound of the waves was soft, like background music to their conversation. The stars were beginning to appear one by one, tiny lights in the dark sky. Emma looked up and said, "You know, I love stars. They make me feel small but also safe, like I'm part of something bigger." Daniel looked at her and said, "I feel the same. It's amazing how far they are, yet we can still see them. It's like, even in the distance they shine." That night they talked for hours. They shared little stories about their childhood, their favorite books, their favorite songs. Emma loved reading too, and when she found out Daniel worked in a bookshop, her eyes lit up. "A bookshop? That sounds like a dream job," she said. Daniel laughed. "It is sometimes, but it can be quiet. I wish more people loved books the way I do." Emma smiled. Maybe they just need the right story. That simple sentence stayed in his heart. Pause for a second and repeat that line. Maybe they just need the right story. Sometimes in life, one small sentence can change everything. It can inspire someone to try again, to dream again, to believe again. The right story can wake up your heart, just like the right story can help you learn English faster and deeper. Learning English isn't only about grammar and vocabulary. It's about emotion. When you feel the story, you remember it. When you speak with emotion, your words come alive. So as we continue, don't just listen. Feel the story with your heart. Imagine Emma's smile. Daniel's gentle voice, the soft waves, the night sky. That's how you grow as a learner. Not by pressure, but by connection. As the night grew darker, the cafe lights across the street turned off one by one. Emma said she should go home. Daniel felt a little sad, but smiled anyway. "Maybe I'll see you again tomorrow?" he asked. Emma looked at him for a moment and said, "Maybe you will." Then she waved and walked away, her steps light and graceful in the soft sand. Repeat, "Maybe you will." Daniel stood there for a few minutes, looking at the sea again, smiling quietly. Something had changed inside him. It wasn't just that he had met someone new. It was the feeling that life could surprise him again. And that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Sometimes we think everything is ordinary. Our routine, our days, our world. But then something happens. A smile, a moment, a meeting, and suddenly life feels fresh again. That's the magic of connection. Now let's learn a few useful phrases from this part of the story. Repeat them slowly and clearly after me. Everything would change. It helps me think, I love this time of day. Maybe they just need the right story. Beautiful evening, isn't it? Great job! Each phrase carries both meaning and emotion. Try to use one of these phrases in your next English conversation or journal entry. Before we end this section, let's reflect a little. Emma and Daniel didn't plan to meet that night. It just happened. Naturally, softly, like the way new beginnings often do. And that's how your English journey can be too. You don't have to force it. Just keep showing up, keep listening, keep speaking, and one day you'll notice you're fluent, confident, and free. The night they first met was only the beginning, but it planted a seed of connection, of curiosity, of something that could grow into love. And just like that, the waves continued to move, the stars kept shining, and the world quietly smiled, knowing that something beautiful had begun. Repeat this last line with me. Something beautiful had begun. Beautifully done. You're learning English not just with your mind, but with your heart. The next morning, Emma woke up earlier than usual. The soft light of dawn was just beginning to enter her small room through the curtains. She lay there for a few minutes, remembering the night before. The sea breeze, the sound of the waves, and the quiet kindness in Daniel's voice. She smiled without even realizing it. Repeat after me. She smiled without even realizing it. She didn't know why, but that simple conversation made her feel lighter, more hopeful. For the first time in a long while, she looked forward to going to work. She wanted to see if maybe, just maybe, Daniel would walk by the cafe. Emma worked in a cozy little place called Seaside Coffee. It was small but full of charm. Wooden tables, warm lights, and the smell of fresh bread every morning. The owner, Mrs. Carter, was a kind woman in her 50s who treated Emma like her own daughter. When Emma arrived, Mrs. Carter smiled and said, "Good morning, dear." "You're early today." Emma laughed softly. "Yes, I couldn't sleep much, dreaming about someone special." Mrs. Carter teased. Emma blushed. No, nothing like that," she said quickly, but her cheeks were pink. Sometimes, when our hearts start to open, even a small question can make us smile shyly. That's the beauty of emotions. They make us feel alive. Repeat this line with me. That's the beauty of emotions. They make us feel alive. Later that day, the cafe was busier than usual. People came in for coffee, pastries, and small conversations. But every time the door opened, Emma looked up, wondering if it might be Daniel. And finally, in the late afternoon, the doorbell chimed. Ding! And there he was. Daniel stood in the doorway, holding a book in his hand and that same gentle smile on his face. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She tried to stay calm and professional. "Hi there," she said, smiling. "Would you like a coffee?" "Yes, please," Daniel said. "A cappuccino, and maybe a slice of that chocolate cake?" "Coming right up," she replied. As Emma prepared the coffee, Daniel watched her carefully, noticing the way she moved. Calm, focused, kind. He thought she had a quiet strength, the kind of strength that doesn't shout but shines. When Emma brought his coffee, Daniel placed the book on the counter. "I brought this," he said, "for you." "For me?" she asked, surprised. "Yes, you said you love stories, right? This one is one of my favorites. It's simple but beautiful." Emma took the book carefully. It was called Letters from the Sea. The cover showed a lighthouse under a starry sky. "Thank you," she said softly. "That's really kind of you. Repeat that short dialogue after me. For me?" "Yes, you said you love stories, right?" "Thank you. That's really kind of you. Well done. Every sentence you speak builds your confidence." For the next few minutes, they talked quietly while he enjoyed his coffee. Daniel told her about his dream of becoming a writer one day. "I don't just want to sell books," he said. "I want to write stories that touch people's hearts, stories that make them feel something." Emma smiled. "I think you already do that." Her words made Daniel blush a little. He laughed nervously and said, "Then maybe this is the beginning of one. Repeat after me. Maybe this is the beginning of one." How beautiful that line is, both romantic and full of possibility. Life often gives us small beginnings that grow into something much more than we ever expect. As the evening came closer, the cafe started to empty. Daniel stayed a little longer, reading a few pages of his book while Emma cleaned the tables. When she came near him, he said, "Do you want to go for a walk after you finish?" She hesitated for a moment, then nodded with a smile. "Yes, I'd like that." Later, when the cafe closed, they walked together along the same path by the sea where they had first met. The night sky was clearer than before, filled with bright stars that seemed to be smiling at them. They talked about small things, favorite songs, childhood memories, funny stories. Daniel told her how he used to sit in his room as a boy, writing short stories in old notebooks. Emma told him how she once dreamed of traveling around the world, but never found the courage to go. "You still can," Daniel said softly. "It's never too late to begin." Repeat that sentence. "It's never too late to begin." Emma looked at him thoughtfully. "Maybe," she said. "But sometimes life gets in the way," Daniel smiled gently. "Sometimes, but not always. Sometimes life opens a door. You just have to walk through it." His words stayed with her. They didn't sound like advice. They sounded like truth. They kept walking until they reached the end of the pier, where the sea stretched endlessly before them. The wind was cool and the waves sparkled under the moonlight. Emma looked at Daniel and said, "Do you ever feel like the sea is trying to tell us something?" Daniel looked at her with curiosity. "Like what?" "Like, every wave that comes and goes is saying, 'Try again. Don't stop. Keep moving.'" Daniel smiled. "That's beautiful. You should write that down," she laughed. "Maybe I will, and if you promise to read it." "I promise," he said. "Repeat the line with me. Try again. Don't stop. Keep moving." These words aren't just for Emma and Daniel. They are for you too. When learning English feels hard, when you make mistakes, remember. Try again. Don't stop. Keep moving. Every word you speak, every line you repeat is a step toward confidence. After a few quiet moments, Daniel said, "You know, I'm glad I took the long way home that night." Emma smiled. "Why?" "Because if I hadn't, I might never have met you." For a moment, they just stood there, listening to the waves. The world felt perfectly still. Repeat that. The world felt perfectly still. Sometimes silence can say more than words. Finally, Daniel looked at her and said, "Can I see you again tomorrow?" Emma nodded slowly. "Yes," she said. "I'd like that." When they said goodbye, neither of them realized how deeply that night would stay in their hearts. It wasn't just the beginning of love. It was the beginning of change. Love, after all, is not only about two people. It's about becoming more alive, more open, more human. Repeat this line. Love is about becoming more alive. That night, Emma went home holding the book he gave her. She placed it beside her bed and opened it carefully. Inside the cover, she found a small note. It said, "For Emma, may your heart always follow its own story." She smiled, touched her heart, and whispered, "Maybe it already has." Repeat that softly. Maybe it already has. And with that, she turned off the light, feeling that the world was full of hope again. You see, my friend, language and love are not so different. Both begin with connection. Both grow with time, patience, and practice. And both can change the way you see the world. So as you listen to this story, remember, every sentence is not just English, it's a feeling, a heartbeat, a moment of life. The next day was sunny, with a bright blue sky that seemed to smile down on the town. Emma woke up early again, full of quiet excitement. She put on her favorite white dress, brushed her hair carefully, and looked at herself in the mirror. It's just another day, she told her reflection. But her heart knew it wasn't just another day. It was the day she would see Daniel again. Repeat after me. It wasn't just another day. At the cafe, she worked as usual, greeting customers with her warm smile, preparing drinks, cleaning tables. But deep inside, she was listening for the sound of the doorbell, the soft ding that meant Daniel had arrived. Finally, around noon, the door opened, and there he was, holding a single red flower. It wasn't a rose, but a wild poppy, bright and simple, just like him. For you, he said shyly. Emma laughed softly. That's so sweet. Thank you. She placed the flower in a small glass of water behind the counter, next to the cash register. Now it can stay here and make everyone smile. Daniel nodded. Then I'll come more often to check on it. They both laughed. Repeat this part after me. For you. That's so sweet. Thank you. I'll come more often to check on it. Excellent. Feel how the rhythm of short sentences makes conversation sound natural and warm. That afternoon, Daniel stayed at the cafe for a while, reading and talking between customers. Emma enjoyed having him there. It made her day feel lighter, brighter. Even Mrs. Carter noticed. You're glowing today, Emma, she said with a teasing smile. Maybe she was. When Daniel finally left, he said, I'll see you later by the sea? Emma smiled and nodded. Yes, after work. And so, after the cafe closed, Emma walked again to the beach just as the sun was setting. Daniel was already there, sitting on the same bench where they had first met. The waves whispered softly against the shore, and the sky was painted orange and purple. When Emma sat beside him, Daniel said, You know what I love about the sea? What, she asked. It never stops moving. No matter what happens, when storms, wind, darkness, and it always keeps going. It never gives up. Emma nodded. Yes, just like life. Or learning English, Daniel added with a smile. Emma laughed. Exactly. You make everything sound poetic. I just notice things, he said. Maybe that's why I love stories. They help us see beauty in simple things. Repeat after me. They help us see beauty in simple things. That's one of the most powerful sentences you can remember. When you find beauty in small moments, a smile, a sentence, a sunset, your English learning becomes not just a task, but a joy. As they walked along the shore, Daniel said, I've been thinking, what if we write something together? Write? Emma asked. Yes, a short story. Something simple. You could tell me about your dreams, and I'll help you turn them into words. Emma hesitated. But I'm not good at writing. Daniel smiled gently. You don't have to be good. You just have to be honest. Stories are not about being perfect. They're about being real. Repeat that. Stories are not about being perfect. They're about being real. Emma looked at him, her eyes thoughtful. Then maybe, yes. Let's do it. For the next few days after work, they met at the cafe or by the sea, writing together. Their story was about a girl who dreamed of crossing the ocean to find a place where she truly belonged. They wrote line by line, laughing at mistakes, encouraging each other, sharing ideas. Every word they wrote brought them closer, not just as friends, but as two souls learning to speak the same emotional language. When you learn English, it's like writing your own story too. Every new word you learn is like a new page. Some pages are messy, some are beautiful. But together they become your journey, your book. Repeat after me. Every word I learn is part of my story. Perfect. That's a sentence you should always remember. One evening after they finished writing, Daniel said, I never thought learning could feel like this. Like what? Asked Emma. Like falling in love, he said quietly. Emma's heart beat faster. She didn't know what to say. She just smiled and looked at the waves. Silence filled the air, not uncomfortable but full of meaning. The kind of silence that says everything words cannot. Repeat this. Silence can speak too. Then Daniel said softly, Emma, I don't want this to end. She looked at him, her eyes shining. Then let's not let it end. They both laughed a little shyly. But the moment felt pure and real. From that night on, they spent many evenings together, talking, writing, walking, and sometimes just sitting quietly. Emma felt her world changing. She was smiling more, dreaming more, believing more. Mrs. Carter noticed too. You look happy, dear, she said one morning. Emma smiled. I am, but happiness is never simple, is it? Sometimes, when life feels too perfect, a small shadow appears, a reminder that nothing stays the same forever. One evening, Daniel arrived at the cafe looking worried. Emma noticed right away. What's wrong? She asked. He took a deep breath. I got an offer from a publisher in another city. They want me to work with them. Emma's eyes widened. That's amazing, she said. Daniel, that's your dream. He nodded slowly. It is, but it means I'd have to leave, maybe for a long time. The words hung in the air. The sound of the coffee machine, the soft music, the laughter of other customers. Everything suddenly felt far away. Emma tried to smile, but her voice trembled. Oh, I see. Repeat that. Oh, I see. Sometimes the simplest words carry the deepest emotion. Daniel looked down. I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose this. Us, Emma said quietly. You have to follow your dream. You told me once that stories are about being real. So be real, Daniel. Go after it. He looked at her with both gratitude and sadness. You're amazing, you know that? She smiled gently. No, I'm just someone who believes in you. Repeat after me. I'm just someone who believes in you. He reached for her hand across the counter. Then promise me one thing. Days passed, then weeks. The cafe felt quieter without Daniel's visits, and the beach seemed a little emptier. But Emma kept her promise. Every evening after work, she took out her notebook and wrote. Sometimes she wrote about the sea. Sometimes she wrote about hope. And sometimes she wrote about a boy who believed in her. Repeat after me. She kept her promise. At first, her writing was simple. Short sentences, small stories. But with time, her words began to grow stronger, deeper, more confident. She wrote with her heart. She didn't worry about mistakes or grammar. She just wrote. And that's something important for you too, my friend. When you write in English, don't be afraid of mistakes. Mistakes mean you are learning. Every mistake is a step forward. Repeat that. Every mistake is a step forward. One morning, Mrs. Carter found Emma writing before opening the cafe. You've been writing a lot lately, she said with a smile. Emma nodded. It helps me feel close to someone who's far away. Mrs. Carter placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Love can travel through words, dear. Just like stories can travel through time. Emma smiled. I think he'd like that. Time moved on. The days grew colder, and the leaves turned golden and red. Autumn arrived, and with it came letters, real letters written in Daniel's neat handwriting. The first one came with a book attached, a small blue notebook. On the first page, he had written, For our stories, keep writing. His letter said, Dear Emma, the city is big and noisy, but I'm learning a lot. I miss the quiet of the sea, and I miss our talks. I hope you're still writing. Remember, stories are bridges. They connect hearts, no matter how far apart. Yours, Daniel. Emma read the letter again and again. Each word made her smile and ache at the same time. She took out her pen and wrote back, Dear Daniel, I'm still writing, every day. The sea is still beautiful, though it feels different without you here. I'm proud of you. Keep chasing your dream. I'll keep writing mine. Always, Emma. Repeat these short lines after me. Stories are bridges. They connect hearts. No matter how far apart. Beautifully done. For months. They wrote to each other. Letters filled with laughter. Dreams and small details about their days. Their words became the thread that held their connection together. Sometimes love grows not through touch, but through understanding. Through words shared across distance and time. Repeat that. Love grows through understanding. During this time, Emma's English also improved, because she was writing, reading and expressing feelings in another language. She began to think in English more naturally, to feel the rhythm of words, to speak more confidently with customers. She realized something powerful. Learning English wasn't just about study. It was about using it to express her real emotions. That's an important lesson for you too. English becomes easier when you use it to talk about real life. Your hopes, your dreams, your feelings. Say this with me. English is a bridge to connection. One day, months later, a surprise arrived at the cafe. A small brown package tied with string. Inside, Emma found a printed book, Daniel's first published collection of short stories. On the first page, he had written a dedication. To Emma, the girl who taught me that the simplest stories can carry the deepest truth. Emma covered her mouth, tears in her eyes. Mrs. Carter smiled proudly. Looks like someone made his dream come true. Emma nodded, whispering, and I'm still making mine. Repeat this. Dreams take time, but they come true. That night, Emma went to the beach again. She brought the book with her, sat on the same bench, and began to read under the moonlight. The sound of the waves kept her company, and the stars looked brighter as if they were listening. In one of Daniel's stories, there was a line that made her heart stop. It said, like, sometimes love is not about staying. Sometimes it's about helping someone become who they're meant to be. She read that line over and over. Then she whispered softly, You helped me become who I'm meant to be. Repeat after me. You helped me become who I'm meant to be. Those words are not only about love, they are about gratitude. Every teacher, every friend, every story helps us grow into ourselves. Months continued to pass, and the cafe stayed busy. One morning, a traveler stopped by, a young woman with a large backpack. She ordered coffee and asked, Is there a place nearby to stay? Emma smiled. There's a small inn 2 streets down. You can't miss it. The woman smiled back. Thank you. You speak English so well. Emma laughed. I practice every day. Are you from here? The traveler asked. Yes, Emma said. Born and raised here? You're lucky, the traveler said. It's a beautiful town. After the traveler left, Emma thought about her words. You're lucky. And she realized she really was. She had love, friendship, stories, and a language that now connected her to the world. Repeat this. Language connects me to the world. A few days later, Emma received another letter from Daniel. This time it was short. Dear Emma, I'm coming home. See you soon. Daniel, Emma's heart raced. She read the letter 3 times to make sure it was real. He was coming back. That evening, she couldn't stop smiling. She cleaned the cafe, baked extra pastries, and even picked fresh flowers for the tables. The next morning felt like spring again, even though it was winter. When Daniel arrived, he looked different. A little older, a little more confident, but his smile was still the same. He walked into the cafe, and for a moment, time stopped. Emma stood behind the counter, frozen. Then she laughed softly and said, Beautiful morning, isn't it? Daniel laughed too. Yes, it is. Repeat that dialogue with me. Beautiful morning, isn't it? Yes, it is. It was just like the first night they met, simple, gentle, and full of meaning. Mrs. Carter smiled from the kitchen window, pretending not to watch, but her heart was happy too. Daniel sat at his usual table, and Emma brought him his favorite cappuccino. You remembered, he said. I never forget good stories, she replied. They both laughed, feeling that everything had come full circle. Repeat after me. Everything had come full circle. As they talked, Daniel told her about his new book project, one inspired by their letters and their story. He wanted to call it The Night We First Met. Emma's eyes softened. That's beautiful, she said. You're turning our story into a book? He nodded. Yes, because it's real. And because you're part of it, she smiled. Then I guess I'm a character now, Daniel smiled back. You always were. Repeat that. You always were. That night they walked by the sea again like before, only this time everything felt different. They were not 2 strangers anymore. They were 2 people who had grown, changed, and found each other again. As they sat on the bench, Daniel said, Do you believe in destiny? Emma looked at him thoughtfully. I believe in choices. And I think sometimes choices lead us back to where we belong. He nodded slowly. Then I'm glad my choices led me back here. Repeat this. Choices can lead us home. The waves rolled gently against the shore, and the stars above seemed to wink in approval. It felt like the universe had been waiting for this moment. The moment when 2 stories became one again. The night air was cool and soft. The town lights shimmered in the distance as Emma and Daniel walked slowly along the quiet beach. The waves whispered. The sand felt cold beneath their feet, and everything around them seemed to breathe peace. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Sometimes silence is not empty. It's full of feelings that don't need words. Repeat after me. Silence is not empty. Finally, Emma said softly, "I can't believe you're really here." Daniel smiled. "I can't believe it either. The city was good to me, but I missed this place. I missed the sea. I missed you." Emma looked down shyly, her hair moving with the wind. "I missed you too." They kept walking, their shoulders almost touching, but not quite. The sound of the waves filled the space between them. After a moment, Daniel said, "When I was away, I realized something. I thought success would make me happy. I thought publishing books and getting recognition would make me feel complete. But it didn't. I kept thinking about that first night, the night we met, and how you said maybe people just need the right story. I think that's true. And I think you were my right story." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "You really believe that?" Daniel nodded. "Yes. Meeting you reminded me why I started writing in the first place. You're not for fame, but to connect, to understand, to feel." Repeat that. Not for fame, but to connect. Beautiful. Connection. That's what stories and languages are all about. When you speak English, you're not just using words. You're connecting with people, feelings, ideas, and the world. Emma smiled through her tears. "You've changed," she said gently. "Maybe," Daniel said. "But in some ways, I think I just found myself again." She looked at him quietly and said, "Welcome back, then." They both laughed, and the tension melted away. Repeat that. Welcome back. The next few weeks passed quickly. Daniel stayed in town, helping Mrs. Carter with some writing for the cafe's new menu, spending time with Emma, and working on his new book. They often wrote together again, just like before. Only this time, their words carried more warmth, more history, more understanding. Sometimes, after closing the cafe, they would sit on the floor with cups of tea, reading each other's drafts. Daniel loved listening to Emma read aloud. Her voice was gentle but steady, and every word she spoke sounded like poetry. "You should publish something," Daniel said one evening. Emma laughed. "Me? No one would want to read what I write." "That's not true," Daniel replied. "People don't need perfect stories. They need real ones, and yours are full of life. Repeat after me. People don't need perfect stories. They need real ones." That line is powerful. It applies to English learning too. You don't have to speak perfectly. You just have to speak sincerely. When you speak from the heart, people will listen. One rainy afternoon, they sat inside the cafe, watching raindrops slide down the window. The streets were quiet, and the world seemed slow and peaceful. Emma said softly, "It's funny, isn't it? How one small decision can change everything." Daniel looked at her. "You mean that night?" She nodded. "Yes, you decided to take the long way home. If you hadn't, we might never have met," Daniel smiled. "That's true. I guess sometimes life gives us what we don't even know we need." Repeat after me. Sometimes life gives us what we don't even know we need. Emma smiled back, her eyes full of light. "I think that's the best kind of gift." They both looked out the window again, watching the rain sparkle under the streetlights. The sound of the rain, smell of coffee, and the quiet company between them made everything feel timeless. It was a simple day, yet it felt like everything they had ever hoped for. Later that evening, Daniel said, "Emma, can I show you something?" He reached into his bag and took out a small brown envelope. Inside was a letter, not handwritten but printed on official letterhead. Emma looked at him with surprise. "What is it?" Daniel smiled nervously. "It's from a publisher. They want to publish our story, the one we wrote together before I left. I sent it to them months ago. I didn't think they'd reply, but they did. They said it's touching, honest, and full of heart." Emma's mouth fell open. "You're joking." "No," Daniel said with a grin. "They want to include it in a new collection of modern love stories." Emma covered her face, laughing and crying at the same time. "I can't believe it." "Our story?" "Our story," Daniel said softly. "The night we first met." Repeat after me, "Our story." She looked at him with tears of joy. "You did it." "No," he said gently. "We did it." That night they celebrated with Mrs. Carter at the cafe. She baked her famous chocolate cake and they laughed like children. The cafe was full of light and warmth. Mrs. Carter raised her cup and said, "To love, to stories, and to second chances." They all clinked their cups together and repeated, to love, to stories, and to second chances. Repeat that line yourself, and it's a beautiful phrase to remember. To love, to stories, and to second chances. After the celebration, Emma and Daniel walked back to the beach once more. The rain had stopped and the moonlight reflected gently on the wet sand. Daniel turned to Emma and said, "It feels like everything led us here. Every word, every letter, every mistake." Emma nodded. "Maybe that's how stories work. Every chapter matters, even the hard ones." He smiled. "And now we're writing a new chapter." She looked at him, her eyes full of affection. "Together, repeat after me. Every chapter matters. And now we're writing a new chapter. Together." Perfect. Feel the rhythm, the emotion, the simplicity of these sentences. This is natural English, not forced but flowing from the heart. As they sat down on the familiar bench, the sea stretched endlessly before them. Daniel said, "I used to think happy endings were only in books, but now I think happy endings are really just beginnings, moments when life opens a new door." Emma smiled softly. "Then I hope this is our beginning." Daniel took her hand gently. "It is." Repeat that simple, powerful line. "It is." They sat quietly, watching the waves roll in and out, just as they had the night they first met. Only now they understood what those waves were really saying. Keep going, keep believing, keep loving, and that's what they did. Repeat this last line, keep going, keep believing, keep loving. If you listen carefully, that's what life is whispering to you too. Every time you study, every time you speak, every time you dare to try again. The next morning, sunlight touched the curtains of Emma's small room. She opened her eyes slowly and smiled as she remembered the night before. The laughter, the joy, and the warmth of knowing that their story was finally being shared with the world. She sat by the window, holding a cup of tea, watching people walking by on their way to work. For the first time in a long while, everything felt right. Repeat after me, everything felt right. She whispered to herself, "The night we first met changed everything." Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Daniel. "Meet me at the cafe when you can. I have something to show you." Emma quickly got dressed, grabbed her notebook, and hurried down the street. The air smelled of fresh bread and coffee. When she entered the cafe, Daniel was already there, sitting by their favorite corner table. He looked up with a smile that reached his eyes. "Good morning, Emma." "Morning," she said, trying not to grin too wide. "What's going on?" Daniel handed her a book, an actual printed book with their names on the cover. It said, "The Night We First Met," a collection of modern love stories. Emma froze. "Oh my goodness, it's real." Daniel nodded. "Hot off the press. They sent the first copies today." She turned the pages slowly, feeling the texture of the paper, the scent of new ink, the weight of their dream made real. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Daniel watched her quietly, a proud smile on his face. "We did this, Emma, together. Repeat after me, we did this together." This moment was more than just success. It was proof that dreams take time, but they're worth every step. Emma said, "I never thought something I wrote could be in a real book." Daniel leaned forward. "You believed in it, even when you didn't realize you did. That's the magic. Belief starts small, but it grows when you keep going." Repeat. "Belief starts small, but it grows when you keep going." Emma smiled warmly. "You always know what to say," he chuckled. "That's what writers do." They both laughed, and Mrs. Carter came over, curious as ever. "Well, look at that. My favorite writers are famous now." Emma and Daniel both blushed. Mrs. Carter added with a wink, "I'm going to need your signatures before you become too popular to remember your old cafe." Daniel grinned. "You'll always be part of our story, Mrs. Carter." Repeat that. "You'll always be part of our story." Moments like these remind us that success isn't about being alone at the top. It's about sharing joy with those who believed in you along the way. Later that afternoon, Daniel suggested a walk by the cliffs overlooking the sea. The sky was clear, and the air carried the scent of salt and freedom. As they walked, Emma said, "You know, it still feels like a dream." Daniel nodded. "It does, but it's real. Every word, every late night, every doubt, it all led us here." Repeat after me, every word, every doubt, every late night, it all led us here. They stopped to look at the horizon. The ocean stretched endlessly, reflecting the sunlight like silver. Emma said softly, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't met that night?" Daniel smiled. "Maybe we would have met another night. Or another way. Some people are meant to find each other." Repeat. Some people are meant to find each other. Emma nodded, touched by his words. "I like that idea." He looked at her with warmth in his eyes. "Me too." They sat down on a flat rock near the edge, the wind blowing through their hair. Daniel took out a small notebook. "I'm starting a new story," he said. Emma leaned closer. "What's it about?" He smiled. "It's called The Morning After We Met," she laughed. "You're joking." "No," Daniel said. "It's about what happens after the ending, when the story doesn't stop with a kiss but keeps going through real life." Emma thought for a moment. "I like that. Real stories don't end, they grow." Repeat, real stories don't end. They grow. That's an important truth for English learners too. Your story doesn't end when you learn a few new words. It grows every time you speak, listen, or write. Every small effort adds up. Daniel wrote a few words in his notebook and read them aloud. Some nights change your life, but some mornings remind you why it was worth it. Emma smiled softly. "That's beautiful." "Thanks," Daniel said. "Maybe you can help me finish it." She nodded eagerly. "I'd love to." They began brainstorming together again, new ideas, new emotions, new adventures. The rhythm of their voices blended with the sound of the sea. After a while, Emma said, "Do you ever think about what readers will feel when they read our story?" Daniel looked thoughtful. "I hope they feel hope. I hope they realize that even small moments, a walk, a cup of coffee, a conversation, can change a life." Repeat, even small moments can change a life. Beautiful words, aren't they? Remember them, because your English journey will also be made of small, powerful moments. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with soft orange light, Emma said, "You know, I think we found our ending." Daniel shook his head with a smile. "No, Emma, I think we found our beginning." Repeat, we found our beginning. They stood up, hand in hand, and started walking back toward town. The sea wind blew gently, carrying with it the sound of laughter, dreams, and stories yet to be written. When they reached the cafe, the lights were glowing warmly through the windows. Mrs. Carter waved from inside, and the smell of freshly baked bread welcomed them home. Daniel turned to Emma and said, "One day we'll tell our children this story." Emma smiled softly. "And they'll say, 'Tell us again about the night you first met.'" He laughed. "And we'll tell them, every word, every moment, just like it happened. Repeat that. Tell us again about the night you first met." And you, dear listener, will remember this story too, not just as a love story, but as a lesson. A reminder that language is not only about grammar or pronunciation. It's about connection, emotion, and courage. Every word you learn, every sentence you speak brings you closer to someone, to something, to your own story. So keep going. Keep learning. Keep believing. Repeat one last time. I will keep going. I will keep learning. I will keep believing. Perfect. Because somewhere out there, your own story is waiting. Maybe it begins with a single word, a new friendship, or even a night you'll never forget. And when it happens, you'll know that English didn't just help you understand the world. It helped you feel it. The days passed like pages in a favorite book, full of warmth, laughter, and new beginnings. Emma and Daniel's story was now being read by people all around the world. Readers sent letters to the cafe, messages filled with love, hope, and gratitude. They wrote things like, "Your story gave me courage to follow my dreams," and "I met someone special too, and your story reminded me to believe in love again." Every letter touched Emma's heart. She kept them all in a wooden box behind the counter. Whenever she felt tired or uncertain, she would open that box, read one of the letters, and smile. Repeat after me. Words have power. Yes, they do. Words can heal, connect, and inspire. That's why learning English, or any language, isn't just about studying. It's about discovering how your voice can reach someone's heart. One evening, as the sun painted the sky pink and gold, Daniel came to the cafe carrying his notebook. He had that excited look in his eyes, the one Emma always recognized. I finished it, he said, smiling. Finished what? Emma asked, curious. He handed her the notebook. The new story. The morning after we met. Emma opened it carefully. Can I read it? Of course, he said softly. She began reading aloud. Her voice was calm, her tone full of feeling. The morning after we met, the sky was brighter than usual. The town was quiet, but something inside me had changed. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew one thing for sure. I didn't want that night to be the last chapter. Emma paused and looked up. That's beautiful, Daniel. He smiled shyly. It's how I felt, then and now. She continued reading. Sometimes love doesn't arrive like lightning. Sometimes it grows slowly, quietly, through shared smiles, warm words, and small moments that mean everything. And sometimes you don't realize how much someone matters until the world feels empty without them. Emma's eyes grew soft. You really wrote this about us, didn't you? Daniel nodded. Every word. Repeat after me. Every word matters. Emma closed the notebook gently. It's perfect. He looked at her for a moment, then said, Emma, I have something to ask you. Her heart skipped. What is it? Daniel took a small box from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a simple silver ring that shone softly in the golden light. Emma gasped. Daniel, he smiled nervously. I don't need a dramatic proposal or a perfect moment. I just need this one, with you. Will you marry me? Her eyes filled with tears. She couldn't speak for a few seconds. Then she whispered, Yes. Yes, of course I will. Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands trembling with happiness. The whole cafe seemed to glow brighter. Mrs. Carter, who had been watching secretly from behind the counter, clapped her hands and shouted, Finally! Everyone laughed. It was a moment full of laughter, joy, and love. Simple, real, unforgettable. Repeat after me. It was a moment full of love. The cafe became even more special after that. They started calling it Story Cafe. People came not just for coffee, but for inspiration. They brought notebooks, dreams, and ideas. Emma and Daniel often sat with young writers, helping them find their own voices. One afternoon, a teenage girl came in, shy and quiet, clutching a small notebook. Emma smiled at her warmly and said, Would you like to read something? The girl hesitated. It's not very good. Emma shook her head gently. Every story starts somewhere. Go on, let's hear it. The girl read a short story about kindness and friendship. Her voice trembled, but her eyes shone. When she finished, Daniel said softly, That was beautiful. Keep writing. The girl smiled for the first time that day. Thank you. Maybe I will. As she left, Emma whispered to Daniel, That was us once, he nodded. Yes, and look where believing took us. Repeat, look where believing took us. That sentence means a lot. Believing, in yourself, in your dreams, in your ability to learn, can take you farther than you ever imagine. As time went on, The Night We First Met became a bestseller. Readers loved the simplicity, the emotion, and the honesty. It wasn't a dramatic story full of twists. It was real, and that made it powerful. One morning, Emma and Daniel were invited to a local radio show to talk about their journey. The host asked, What message do you want people to take from your story? Daniel thought for a moment, then said, That love and dreams are not found in perfect places. They're found in ordinary moments. You just have to notice them. Repeat after me. You just have to notice them, Emma added. And that learning, whether it's love, writing, or language, never really ends. You just grow with every chapter. Those words touched many listeners that day. People called the station to say how inspired they felt. Some said they decided to start learning English again. Others said they wanted to start writing their own love stories. Emma smiled as she listened to the callers. This is why we write, she whispered. To remind people that stories are alive. That evening, after the interview, Daniel and Emma walked by the sea once more. The same beach where it had all begun, the night they first met. The wind was gentle and the moon was bright. Daniel said softly, It's strange, isn't it? Everything started here, Emma smiled. Yes, and somehow it feels like it's still starting, he nodded. Maybe stories never really end. They just find new readers, new hearts. Repeat, stories never really end. They sat down on the familiar bench, their hands entwined. The sea whispered like an old friend. Emma said, Do you ever think about what our story means in English? Like what words people remember? Daniel thought. Maybe they'll remember words like hope, believe, and together. Those are the words that changed our lives. Repeat these three powerful words. Hope, believe, together. Beautiful, simple, strong. That's how love and language kinda should be. Emma rested her head on Daniel's shoulder. I'm glad I met you that night, Daniel smiled. I'm glad I took the long way home. They both laughed softly, remembering that small, fateful decision that changed everything. For a while, they just listened to the waves, the wind, the heartbeat of life all around them. Then Daniel said, Do you know what I think, Emma? What? I think every person has a story like ours waiting inside them. Maybe not the same, but something that wants to be told. And maybe learning a language is one way to open that door? Emma smiled gently. Yes, because words aren't just tools. They're bridges. Repeat, words are bridges, exactly. Every word you learn connects you to someone, somewhere. Every new phrase builds a bridge between your heart and another person's world. Emma said softly, Do you remember the first word you taught me when we started writing together? Daniel smiled. Of course, hope, she nodded. It's still my favorite. He took her hand. Mine too, repeat. Hope is my favorite word. The stars shimmered above them. The ocean glowed under the moonlight. Everything felt peaceful, complete, and alive. And yet, even in that stillness, they knew their story. Just like life, would keep growing. New mornings, new pages, new words, Daniel whispered. You know what? We should teach English through stories one day. Emma laughed. We already are, Daniel, he grinned. Then let's never stop. Repeat, let's never stop. That line is for you too, my friend. Never stop. Never stop learning, loving, dreaming, and believing. Your story, just like Emma and Daniel's, is unfolding every day. Maybe it begins with learning one new English word. Maybe it begins with writing your first paragraph or talking to someone new. Whatever your beginning looks like, remember this. You're already inside your story. You just have to keep writing it. So let's repeat a few powerful lines together. Lines that capture everything this story has taught us. Repeat after me slowly. Every word has power. Every story has meaning. Every mistake is part of learning. Every ending is a new beginning. I will keep going. I will keep believing. I will keep writing my story. Excellent. Emma and Daniel's story may end here, but yours continues. Stronger, brighter, and full of endless possibilities. And whenever you speak English, remember, you are not just learning words. You are learning how to express who you are. You are learning how to connect, to love, to understand, and to dream in a new voice. So keep that voice alive. Use it, share it, grow with it, because maybe, just maybe, your story will be the next one someone in another country listens to, learns from, and falls in love with. Repeat one final time. My story matters. Beautiful. Thank you for joining me on this journey, the night we first met. A love story not just about two people, but about courage, connection, and the beautiful language that brings hearts together. Keep learning, keep dreaming, keep shining. Until next time. This is your story, your voice, your world. The end.